Are you saying I'm an idiot and forgot to turn on my mic after having that whole description? What? That's crazy talk. You should be able to hear me now, yes? Yes? I'm just going to believe you can. As I was saying, this builds up a lot of static, and it tries to curl to the side you just peeled the paper from. So you want to peel from both sides. The curl will go out, but it's still static. I don't know if you can tell, but it's sticking to the top surface here. So, stencil for the main board. I tend to take this off from the curved end. That way I can get a nice clean cut straight across. Okay, yeah. That's really strange because the mic was on when I hit play, when I hit begin stream, so I don't know. But now you have to put up with hearing me. And Kim's celebrating over there, and there was much rejoicing. Okay, so like I said, all these little, okay, I say like I said, but y'all didn't hear that. So all these little offcuts can be used for the things like the little braces under the seat. Come on now. Not focusing on my other screen. Let's see if I can get, there it goes. Can you focus now? Okay, there we go. There's little supports under all the seats, just so you don't squish them with putting minis on them. The insides of the boats, I said earlier, these are 2 inches wide because that way I know I can get 2 bases in there on our regular size piece. So that's the entire base of the boat. We're done with that part. Cutting it. I'll need to texture it in a bit. And I need a brush for that. Let me grab that. The steel brush for foam seems a little much, but it seems to be, here we go, rigid plastic. There we go. That should texture it. All right, now this piece, I need the 2 sides out of. And I'll take those and again, cut straight across. Now, I'm going to follow that curve around. Probably not the best knife for this. Follow that curve around. Oh, just cut my tape. Great. Awesome. Off to a great start tonight. Couldn't hear me. Now I'm cutting stuff. All right. Okay, so that's one. Mostly one. That's one. We flip that around. And I cleverly made these just about the same size here on the other end so that I can get that same width out of 2 inches. So, well then, I decided that my better knife for the job is not the better knife for the job. So I'll go back to the first knife. And follow that edge around. Now, I seem to have somehow messed that up, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the one side match the other side, just because. That way they'll be even. This back end you don't need to worry about too much because it will actually be cut off because it's longer than the board, than the ship boat itself. Okay, so time to texture these first pieces. For the floor. Wow, okay. Maybe I do need the steel brush. That's not steel. Get a little bit of wood grain texture in this. Nothing magical here. Okay, I'm going to take a pencil, and I tend to mark the middle point, and then use a straight edge to draw the first board line. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side and then just eyeball the other boards. Usually I put about 3 of them in here, so I'm going to put 2 more lines on each side. What do we got? Better to hear me than not. Yes, audio is everything. And some audio is better than no audio. This way you got to put up with my jokes. No, I swear, they're jokes. They're supposed to be funny. Okay. So then I'm just going to randomly pick there and there, there, and there. And that's going to give me 6 boards across the bottom of the boat, give or take. For those of you who don't speak redneck, give or take and scotch and tad bit and all those, yeah, those are just things I say. So if y'all are not familiar with those, I will try to translate into English. Smidge, that's one of my favorites. Move that over a smidge. Okay. Now, on this piece, you can, if you really want to get super specific, match exactly where the boards are on the other side, but you're never really going to look at the top of the boat and the bottom of the boat at the same time. They don't even have to be the same number of boards. So, again, just eyeballing it. You can't see these for squat on the white foam, but once it's painted, they'll show right up. Now, my audio this week, now that I've turned it on and didn't leave it muted like a dunce, now that it's on, it should be way better than last week, because one of my patrons, Digital Calibrator, came over, and they and I worked on, well, digitally calibrating, I guess, my audio. So that's good and ready to go. I hope it sounds good. I'll be working on the video a little bit later in the week. Okay, now I'll take this piece, line it up again. Now I'll take off this little front edge here. That gives me that slanted prow on the boat. Just match it with the other one. Now, here's where things get tricky. This one piece right here, well, 2 pieces, because one on each side, but these pieces right here are the trickiest parts of the whole build, and they're nothing tricky. There's nothing to them. I want to make it look like the boards on this follow the gunnel around the side. So what I am going to do is, using my pencil, I will be following that line and the curve at the top all the way up. I just do this by resting my finger against it and holding the pencil at the right depth. Now, this pretty much creates 2 boards right here, and that's fine, but I want to copy that board on this bottom, and I'm just going to eyeball that. Now, this is always a little wide and could be turned into yet another little board at the front, but I am not going to bother with that. I'll tell you right now. Okay, and you want to do this on both sides, inside and out. As I said, super simple and easy, nothing to it. And then I want to follow that curve. All right, I want to do this to both sides of the boat. Get both boards, flip it over, follow that edge. And then follow that line. Here's where it gets the first bit of tricky. That piece that you had left over at the end, that's going to be the 2 seats. So let's go ahead and texture that. Texture the edges if you want. I usually do. You don't have to texture the ends. They'll be glued in. Okay, now you want to about a quarter of the way in on each side. You want to make another little groove for boards. But you don't have to cut in the middle because you're about to cut this into 2 seats. So you could leave this just one solid board if you want, but I just tend to make it 2 boards. Okay, now we take another straight edge, find our mid mark. It should be about an inch, but it doesn't have to be. Find that middle point and cut. And again, the 2 pieces you just cut, the 2 edges you just cut, drag a little wood texture along that if you want. So that's most of the boat. I'm gonna have to change my stencil because it does not have enough space for the back part. Oh, yes it does. Yes it does. Forget I said that. Okay. We want to take that. It will not have enough for that little... Oh, yes it does that too. Never mind. Yeah, 2 inches by 10 inches will get you an entire boat. So I'm going to cut that out. That out. I'm going to leave this one as a single board. 3 sides of this. The 2 faces, you want to go ahead and texture. And 1 edge. The other edge is going to be glued in at the bottom, so you don't need to texture it. So, there we go. That's the back. And the 2 seats. And this little piece will be turned into that little nubbin in the bow there. And these 2 will become the little supports under the seats. So, let's go ahead and cut a couple little chunks of those off. Okay, those will support the seat. Now, I need to do one more thing that's a little strange. What I'm going to do is take this piece that's left over, and I'm going to glue it onto this other piece. And I will show you why in a moment. Now, I prefer hot glue. You can use white glue if you want to wait a week for it to dry and pin everything in place, but I am not doing that. That is too much glue. Don't use that much glue. So, I want to push that straight across there. Get rid of any squeeze out. That should cool off pretty quickly. Now, it's stuck down, so I'm just going to cut that loose. There we go. Here's the trick on this whole build. You want to take that piece that we just made, you want to cut it the same thickness as this piece. Now you can glue this piece first, or you can cut it first. I'm going to glue it first, that way I know that they match up. This is going to be the little tiny board at the prow right here. You see it here and here. So, a tiny bit of glue. Less than last time because that was too much. Take that and you want to line that up so that it's essentially touching the other side of the boat. If you get squeezed out on the outside, it doesn't matter, you're going to cut it off. If you get squeezed out on the inside, it doesn't matter, you're going to cover up that little triangle in a minute. So you can just, if it squishes out hot glue, you can leave it or wipe it or whatever. Okay. Now, you want to follow that side straight forward. Cut that off. You can discard this piece now. And that leaves our little prow. It's got a little sticky up part here at the front. So I'm going to take that and cut that off. And actually, I'm just going to do a little bit of trim to make it look a little prettier. All right, that's it. That's the whole sides of the boat. Now, as you can imagine, we're going to hot glue this, or whichever glue you prefer, to the boat itself. Now you're going to want this to match here. So I'm just going to start with a bead along. I'm not going to do the whole side at once because the glue is going to be dry. I always put it on low temp so I don't melt anything. The glue is going to already start hardening up before I get the whole thing on. So I'm just going down the front curved edge of the prow here, and maybe a little more, just to get it lined up. I will then take that, lay it flat, and press the corner right against it, and begin to follow that glue around. All right, how are we doing? All right. Like it says I got 2 viewing, but I've got 11 views. So, I don't know. Maybe people came, checked, and ran away. I have no idea. Now this one, you do want to get rid of the squeeze out, because that will be visible down in the base of the boat when you're done. So, the squeeze out here, you want to wipe that up. Stuck it down again. No big deal. All right. Let's follow that side around and finish that side of the boat. Get that glue around, because I seem to got more of it on the bottom of the boat than the side of that board. So this is going to end up getting glued down again, but that is okay. All right. Bring that around the rest of the way. Again, pull out any squeeze out you've got in there, because it will likely be visible down beside where the seats are and such. So that light camera is totally washed out. I'll fix that later, but right now, I'm going to take that, set it free from the board again, because I keep gluing things down tonight. We're about 50% done on this boat already. So what are y'all working on tonight? Anybody crafting, or y'all just watching me be silly with my little boats here? Come on. You worked on the port. Why not the starboard? Come on now. All right. And just like that, we have the starboard gunnel glued in. Again, fish off any squeeze out. Not necessarily up at the front up here, because that's where that little triangle is going to be, but on the sides, definitely. Okay. I like to put the seats in before I put in the rear, so I'm going to go ahead and do that. I want a tiny little drop on one of these, and pick a seat at random. They both look the same on either side, so I'm just going to pick a seat at random and stick the little support on the bottom. And do the same with the other. That's the back. Seat. Take that. Little drop of glue. Put the little support on. Any squeeze out's not going to matter. You're not going to see under here unless it squeezes out all the way to the edge of the seat, in which case you might want to take it off of there. But otherwise, just like that, ready to go. Now, these should be exactly the same width as this board down here. And that one worked out. So, now, I get to decide where I want the seats in this. I'm going to put one of them approximately an inch from the back, and the other one approximately an inch from there. So, by inch, I mean the center point of the seat and the support I'm going to put right there. Now, looks like I've cut some of this with a sort of dull knife, which is strange because I sharpened my knife right before I began that. So I'm going to go ahead and take off some of this little flashy bits here. All right, and if you want, I don't typically do this, but if you want, you can texture that top edge as well. You don't have to. No one's going to notice. Here's one that has not been textured, and it looks fine. Okay, so small drop of glue. Now, here's the benefit of using some foam, because I don't have to glue the ends yet. I can just glue the support and let it get in there and let that glue harden up. bit of a droplet on there. Glue that into place. Here's some of my schmutz that's laying around here. Okay, now, the ends of the seats are not glued in yet, so I take them, and once the glue is hardened up, so I'm going to start with the back one that's already had a chance to harden. I literally bend the seat up. It's not going to hurt that foam any as long as you're delicate with it. Don't yank it up and snap. But I pull it up just a little bit, push out the gunnel if I need to, and this part's really easy to do, tricky to show. So, where I'm pulling that up, I'm going to put the bead of glue right on the end. Then, pull that gunnel out a little bit, push the seat back down, and then push the gunnel against it. Again, wipe up any squeeze out. And just repeat that 3 more times. The other end of this seat, and then both of the ones on the other seat. Oh, stairs. You making them out of foam core like you did, or out of those little squares like you did on that library build, or what are you using, Kim? Stairs are always a pain to make, and they come out looking so great at the end, and you're like, yep, worth it, worth it. At least I am. I'm always happy with my stairs at the end, but they can be kind of a pain. Bit of squeeze out. All right. Push that in. It's funny, microns can make a difference. This is all 2 inches wide. But this seat is just a little narrower in the boat. I'm kind of having to squeeze it to get the glue to grab. All right. Luckily, it's hot glue. It'll fill that little gap a bit. It'll all work out. Okay, I mentioned my patrons earlier. Just to make sure I didn't forget, I want to say thanks to all of them. I've got 3 patrons. I've got Patrick, Dungeon Matron, and Digital Calibrator. And hugely appreciate all the help that you give me. So, genuinely, huge shout out. Thank you so much. And to everybody that's tuning in tonight, if it's your first time ever seeing my face, well, welcome. This is Campaign Terrain, and I'm glad to have you here. If you are returning, then you're already a campaigner, and welcome back. And I'm glad you showed up. I'm glad that you went, oh, he's on, let's go watch him. Seems I have a little bit of squeeze out on the bottom that I didn't quite cut off, so I'm just trimming that up as I go. You may or may not ever have that. Okay, this boat is getting really close to being done. Okay, now, same deal with this backboard as with the seats. I'm going to glue in the bottom, let the glue harden up, and then glue in, drop the back, and then glue in the sides. So, let me reach over, grab that, find out which one I textured. There it is. Make sure that's the top, and I put the glue on the bottom. If you textured both edges, then it doesn't matter which is the top or bottom, but I didn't, so taking care of that now. And you want to line that up exactly with the very back of the base part of the boat. So that's going to line up right along this back line. That's really glary. I'm sorry about the white foam core. I probably should have done this out of one of my pieces of blue foam or something. So that's the rear board there. Now, this is supposed to be the same height as this, and it's not. So, I have a question of, do I leave it the way it is? Do I trim the sides down to match that, which I don't want to do because it's a very narrow plank at this point? Or do I do something to round off the edges at the end? And I think that's what I'm going to do. So, the base is glued in now. I'm going to do the sides again. fold the foam out of the way a little. Bend gently, gently, gently. Bend it out of the way. Get a little hot glue down in there. Press that into place. Let that harden for just a second. If you get squeezed out on the outside of the boat, it doesn't matter because we're about to trim that off. If you get squeezed out on the inside of the boat, you're going to want to get rid of that. Ooh, coffee stirrers. Tiny stairs. Are you going to make them so that, like, miniature bases, the bases of minis will fit in them and they can look like they're climbing them? Or are you filling them in so they're solid like real stairs, Kim? Basically, are you putting risers or just the treads? I mean, I'll eventually see because I presume they may be for a video and I always watch your videos. So, you know. Those of you who don't know, Kim is Questboard Terrain. Their channel is amazing. They do brilliantly beautiful builds, and more often than not, there's a whole story involved in the meantime, so there's tellings of that. Heck, I think you've even had poetry on there. Love watching your stuff. So good. Even that, like specifically that library I was just talking about, that story about how they, well, y'all gotta watch your channel. Long story short, people went where they shouldn't have and got in trouble, but somebody was nice to them. They ended up in servitude instead of dead. So I guess that's nice. Okay, now trimming off the back of the gunnel just to make it flush with the back of the boat. And as I said, this board I didn't leave quite big enough, so I'm gonna have to round those corners off so it looks a little prettier right in here and here. So I'm just gonna take that and eyeball that and just sort of round it off. And I'm going to do the same on the other side. I don't really want it super angular. So I will make it more curvy than straight and sharp. There we go. I don't know if you can really see that, but I think it looks better. Okay. Now, I have to just guesstimate at this front piece. Okay, looks like this edge needs to come off about that angle. And then I just need to eyeball the other side to match it. And that's going to fit. I think I got it too narrow. I did. I got that way too narrow. Luckily, I have another one. So I'm going to take that piece and cut it wider. And it already is wider on the other side. So let's see if that's going to work for me. It looks like it will if I get rid of this bump. Okay, now that looks like it's going to fit up in there well enough. Now, I want to make that look like two boards just because. You don't need to, but I'm going to. So, again, one line across, make it look like two boards. And follow that with the brush to make it look like wood. It won't look like much now, but after it's painted, it will. And then that edge is going to be visible inside the boat. I want to drag along there as well. Now, this one, there's no real specific way to do this. I'm just going to put some glue on it and smush it on up in there. Smushing. Another one of my weird colloquialisms I was talking about earlier. So that's going to go there. And I don't like to put it in flat. I like to angle the front up a little so it sort of follows the prow. But it really doesn't matter. That's just basically a step at the front of the boat to where they could sit fish if they're catching them, or rope or gear, or they could use that to step out onto the dock, whichever. Got another one of those little drag outs in front. A couple little pieces of glue. And that's it. Boat's done. Okay, thanks, bye. No, I'm kidding. I'm going to stay for a while and do a couple more of these boats. Okay, so all of this is scrap. You can put it in your rubble pile. You can throw it away. I tend to not throw it away because I like to believe I'm being green. Ours is not a green hobby. We use way too much foam and stuff. But I like to think I'm doing all right. Okay, so let's start all over. Again, didn't peel it. Let's peel it. Oh, leave black traces there. So you're going to be an ornery one, I can tell. Alright. Oh, yeah, Kim, your channel's amazing. People should definitely check you out. I love your builds. Oh, okay, so there's one. Again, lots of static. I don't know if you can tell, but it's trying to pick stuff up. So there's ways to deal with that. Somebody asked me about it last week, and I've got three or four different ways to deal with it. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll dab it with an unused dryer sheet, sucks the static right out of it, or you can spritz it with a little bit of water. I don't want to do that because I'm trying to glue things to it, so that's a bad idea. You can just wait. The static will dissipate. I know there's at least one other way, and I'm forgetting it right now. But on the side that you peel the paper from, it will try to curl toward that way on the first one. So on the second one, once you peel the second one, it flattens right back out. But the static is still there. So now I will cut the boat out. Every time I think about the words rowboat, or oftentimes just the word boat, I remember that song from Guys and Dolls. I don't know if any of y'all here have seen Guys and Dolls. It's a classic. You should go see it, yada, yada. But there's a song in it where this guy is singing about the devil potentially possessing him because he's an alcoholic and a gambler. But he goes, sit down, you're rocking a boat. And that pops into my head every time I think about boats. So if you're a huge fan of Broadway, you already know that song. But Nicely is one of my favorite characters ever. Okay, so what's next? I want to take this one, measure across it, take that piece off, wood grain texture with this brush, make sure to get the edges. I don't want to have to worry about which side's which earlier, so I'm just going to texture both sides, so when I cut it into seats, it's already textured. Okay. Yeah, the people all said, sit down, you're rocking a boat. That's it, exactly. Freaking great. Hey, Dungeons and Chronics, very glad to have you here. Got another channel. There's another channel y'all should go see. Super chill. Love watching work. The Halloween stuff you did. Woo, good stuff. Good stuff. Okay. So, again, tracing that one out. And we're going to flip that right around. Trace that on the other side. Now, I realized a minute ago that my stencil's a little weird, so I'm going to fix this before I start putting the boat together here in a minute. Before I even start texturing, actually. Oh, good. The corners matched up this time, so the front's right. But the back is still a little wonky, so I'm just going to put those together and eyeball that into a lower piece. One that'll make these two pieces match up with each other better, and they'll make it match that rear end of the boat better. Okay, so that's those gone. Yeah, I like those graveyard things you did, Dungeons and Chronics. Those were good stuff. Rob, I don't think you have if you're still here, I don't think you have a YouTube, but you have an Instagram or something? I've seen some of your builds and they're good as well. I haven't seen you online as much lately, so I don't know where you're hanging out, really. Okay, so, again, texture, and we're going to follow that curve as if the board is following that prow, so I want to bring that this way, and then follow the curve around on both sides. Yeah. Rob used to hang out on Dungeon Matron's Discord a lot. That's one of my other patrons. But I haven't seen you so much lately. But we're sort of language learning buddies because we're both on the same language app. And I see Rob there every once in a while. So makes me feel good to know that people I know are doing all right enough to bother with their language learning. So that's a good thing. Oh, I see how I messed up that edge earlier. That's the brush. Now we found the culprit. Okay, here we go. Now, here's the support. Okay, gotta cut the back of the boat. That's here. Extra that. Oh, I messed that one up. I'm actually gonna cheat and get a piece of an old offcut because that one's all bent up. So this part's not out of the 2" by 10" stencil, but I'm still gonna use it. Okay. Alright, so that's the back, sides. Now I need to use this little piece here. I have to use that piece I used there as the prow. So I need to cut 2 little supports. And that front piece I'll do at the end. So let's take this. And that's a support for the seat. And that is a support for the seat. Put that out of the way, that out of the way, that out of the way. I will need one of these, not you. You're trash. Okay. So, again, a little bit of glue along this front edge here. And glue that against this piece here. Squeeze out's not a big deal because that's going to be hidden under that front board piece. Okay. I've glued it down again, but that's actually going to work in my favor. A little bit of glue on this piece. You want to glue this to that front prow piece, not to the other side directly, so that they essentially match. Again, squeeze out is not an issue on the inside. It's going to be covered. On the outside, it's going to be cut off. So, don't worry about squeeze out there. It wasn't quite dry. The piece tried to lean over on me. Like the world's weirdest sundial. Well, while I'm doing that, I can work on the seats. Again, I want to put a line here just to make it look like 2 boards. And then I don't need to put a line in the middle because that's where I'm going to cut it. I'm going to flip this over just so I don't have to worry about which way I'm gluing it in. Okay. That's the seat cut. Again, I want to find the midpoint. This time I'm just going to kind of eyeball it. And that's the seat done. I like to get a texture on that edge, so I'm going to flip those over that way. A little bit of wood grain on that. Those are ready to go. Little drop in the middle of that. And glue on a support. Squeeze out's not going to matter. These are going to be completely hidden. A little bit of glue on the seat. Support on the glue. I normally try to center it. That time I got it all messed up, but it's not going to matter. It'll be completely hidden. Let me show you. There are supports in here under the seats, just so they don't get too much flex in them. You're never going to see them unless you are looking for them. Okay. Now that this is all hardened up, get this free from here. Like I said, we're going to cut off this outside part. Gone. And the inside part's going to get covered later. We want to just take that piece and sort of match it up at the front. We don't want it too much of a point, so I tend to cut off level with what would be the surface of the water rather than follow that curve up. Otherwise, you end up with a little pointy piece that's super brittle or soft or however you want to word that. Okay. I can use these for something if I need to, so let's go ahead and peel that little piece of glue off there just in case. All right, and now we go back to texturing the bottom. Find the middle of the board. Use a straight edge. One mark down the middle on both sides. Watching him put little white indents into white foam is super exciting, I know. Oh, thanks, man. Yeah, they're pretty fun, and they're easy to kick out, and they will make your harbor look amazing. I made a flatboat. I used a Dremel to create some ice cream stick paddles. So I've got this one that's squared, and I made a whole bunch of these one day. I even followed Carl from Carl Makes Stuff channel on his idea. He said a lot of boats in his harbor are wood colored on the inside and painted on the outside. So I've got one that's still brown on the inside and blue on the out. I'm probably going to paint these ones I'm making tonight. Will probably end up two-tones like this as well. And you can shell them out in like no time. So, but thanks for saying. Okay. Again, that middle one, I try to go down the middle, get it straight, and then after that, I just eyeball the others. I generally make about 6 boards, so that's usually about 5 of these little lines. I don't measure these, I just sort of toss them on there. I figure a lot of these fishermen built this together were not, carpenters, and they built these as fast as they could because they needed to get out and catch the fish. They're built for sturdy and they're built for functional. They're not built for purdy. So I'm not going to be sailing in the regatta with these. I say regatta like I wasn't a preppy and went out on boats all the time when I was a kid. Oh well, what are you gonna do? Okay, now these don't have any wood texture on them. The only places you're gonna put wood texture are the big surfaces and the back if you'd like. I forgot on the other one. I don't think it matters. You can if you want, but remember that one's gonna go across because that's end grain. Yeah, why not? We'll go ahead and finish that up. Okay. Then down the boards. Won't be able to see this at all right now, but once we hit it with some paint, and especially the dry brush at the end, all that will pop right on out. Okay, now, since I've already shown, I'm going to be working a little faster, so I am going to put glue all the way down the edge of the boat on one side. It doesn't matter if you start on the port or starboard. I guess I have a tendency to start on the port side, but it does not matter. So, glue all the way along that. Wedge that into that corner as much as possible, and then follow that around with the gunnel and just hold it into place. Again, if you're using white glue, you're going to have to pin these in place. It's going to take a while to dry. That is up to you. I think white glue is kind of horrible, so just to deal with the wait times, nothing else. It's just the matter. I forgot to put my boards in my sides because I was talking. That's all right. These are actually pretty easy to do once you're already in place, as long as you haven't done both of them. If you do both, it gets a little wonky. So that one's glued in. I'm going to, again, follow that edge, and I want to follow this curve, both inside and out, just a little ways in to make it look like that's a board. And I usually like to do 2, so I'm going to follow that same curve on this other one. And on the outside, again, put your finger right there. Just follow that around with the end of the pencil. And then follow that curve again for the second board. I really messed this up. I should have done that first, but it's all right. No one is going to care. The only person who will ever notice will be me. Okay, now on the other side, we can do it like normal. It's easier when they're flat. Okay. Get that that one, and that one. Mistakes were made. This is how we learn. Okay, and then the way I'm holding this, I can't get it as deep in as I want, but I can get it deep enough that I can then follow it again and make it deeper. Okay. Now follow that same line, get that a little bit more pronounced. And again, just a second line following that curve, just to make that second board. That second curve is going to come around and meet the bottom and just disappear into the wall. Okay, now I can glue this side on. So let's glue the starboard. For those of you who are not in the know and never remember, port is left, starboard is right. There are ways to remember that, but if you're not making a boat or sailing a boat, you don't care. So, okay. Managed to glue that down a little, which is good. That'll hold it in place. Now, time to attach the seats. Oh, hey, Jess, how you doing? This is Jess. This is Sim Peasant. There's a lot of, we met through a very chill online game, and I still watch Jess's channel to see their playthroughs of other games, generally chill games. I don't think you ever played anything like a first-person shooter or anything. If you have, I've certainly never seen you do it. So, but hi, glad to see you. Good to have you here. For anybody I missed out there, or anybody lurking, or any of that, welcome, 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 welcome. If this is your first time, absolutely welcome, and I thank you for being here. If you've been here before and you're back, well, you're now a campaigner, and I welcome you for that as well. I just truly appreciate all the love and support. Oh, I am messing this boat up left, right, and center. I have no idea what I did there. It's all right. Once you can just brush that out, or use my favorite, which is a sanding stick, to take out some of those little rough spots. And once you've got the paint on there, I tend to put glue in my paint, makes it a little thicker. Once you've got all that on there, that's all not either going to blend in or completely not matter. Okay, now fold up the end of the seats. Fold, that's not the right word. Gently lean up the ends of the seats. You don't want to fold it, that'll break it. Put a little glue on the end. Slide it down inside the gunnel. Again, for non-boaty people, gunnel means gunwale. That's the side of the ship. It's the edge of the ship. I think whale originally meant, W-A-L-E, I think originally meant wall, so it means like gun wall, but nowadays it's pronounced gunnel. Okay. That is not gonna, I don't think I got enough glue on that one. We'll come back to that in a minute. Yep, let's try this other side. I had glue squeeze out from that, so it did something, but it doesn't seem to have held. So we'll see if I did in a minute. I may have to fix that. Or go back in later and drop some white glue in there and pin it through the side of the boat so it'll hold that seat in place while the white glue dries. I am currently in Atlanta, and our humidity is horrible, so it can take, not kidding, 3 to 4 days for white glue to dry if the part it's on is too broad. This tiny little piece here would only take like an hour or two to dry completely. I don't mean just set, I mean completely dry. But I have had larger pieces take, not kidding, 6 days to dry. God, I love humidity. Okay. Yeah, that other side did not take. Let's spin that up and put a little more glue in there. All right, have a good one, Kim. Have a good night. Expect a video on these boats soon that's more than just this live stream. Have a good one. Okay, let's work on the back seat. Okay, glue, hold the edge of the boat out a little, push the seat into place, press the edge of the boat back in, wipe off any squeeze out. Good to go. And once that's started to harden and has a hold, go ahead and do the other side. I know you probably can't really see it from that camera, but a little glue on the end of that seat. Push the seat down into place, and push the side of the boat in against it, and right in here, I'm going to pull out any squeeze out. Okay. Almost done with boat 2 of the evening. I cut this many pieces. I don't know that I'm actually going to make 10 boats, but we shall see. Okay, this one, I put a wood grain on one edge earlier. I want to make sure that edge is up. I want to take glue, put it on the bottom edge. Not the sides yet, because that gets a little funky. And then again, that piece goes in there, and you want to line that up right with the back of the boat. Any squeeze out on the on that, you definitely want to get rid of, because that piece is not going to be hidden. That'll be right there on the edge of the boat. Okay. Let that harden for a little bit. While that's doing its thing, I'm going to cut this front piece. Again, this one you just have to kind of eyeball. There's no real way to do it easily. So I'm going to take just a bit off of that. And then I want to try to match that angle on the other side. We're going to hold that there and come here. Wow, that is hard to see. Okay, got our little triangle. We want to know which part's the front. We want to go across that with one line to make it look like 2 boards. And then give a little wood grain on the top and the white edge at the back, because that'll be visible. So use the wire brush, create a little wood grain. Then glue on both sides. And want to make sure we get that right side up and wedge it into the front of the boat. Again, I like to put them at a slight angle so it matches the prow of the boat. So that piece is actually put in at the same angle as the front, or as close as I can get it. If you have squeeze out on that, again, you want to wipe that because it will be visible. Nothing really supporting that except the glue, so that's ready, good and ready to go. Make sure you got it where you want before the glue begins to harden up. And almost done. Okay, on the back, we want to put a little glue in that spot by the aft board and the gunnel, and wedge that together. Let that harden a little. Seems like that piece for some reason was just a few microns shorter than the width of the boat, so I'm actually tilting the gunnel in a little to match it. No one's ever going to know but me. Okay, once that starts to harden, I'll do the other side, but it's still holding on for a minute. So I will go ahead and press that down against it. You can go ahead and cut the piece off while it's doing that. You can discard that. Good to go. You can texture that back piece if you want. Generally, I forget about it. It's not that I don't do it. It's so much as I don't do it. If that makes any sense. Okay, again, squirt a little glue in that gap. Press the gunnel into shape. Hold it in place till it begins to harden. Any squeeze out on the inside of the boat you're going to want to get, because that'll be visible. All right. 24 views. Who knew people wanted to come look at little dinghies? Because I got 2 watching right now. But I've heard that view count is often inaccurate. So I have no idea how many people are watching, but welcome anybody that's here. I'm glad to have you here. Watch me make little boats. Teach you how to make a bunch of them. You can make a whole bunch and fill out your whole marina really quickly. I love stacking them like this. It makes it look like it's the off season and, you know, the bad weather's coming and they've stacked them up for the winter. I love that. Alright, so that's hardened up. We're going to go ahead and cut that off, flush with that other piece. Because I actually remembered this time, I'm going to go ahead and texture that end piece of that. And that is it. That is another boat complete and good to go. So that's 2 already. There is a very, very, very slight standing proud here at the end, and I could take that off, but I am just not going to bother. It looks fine, and they're all supposed to look basically hand-built anyway. So, take all of those little scraps, put them off to the side, and let's begin boat number 3. Anybody wants to build along? Again, my stencils are 2 inches by 10 inches. This is cheapy foam core from the dollar store. This stuff is relatively easy to peel. The white paper is easier to peel than the black, but I use the black so it wouldn't glare out on camera as much. Again, 2 inches by 10. And I actually think a 10.5 or 11 might be better because you end up with very little left over. But as you can see, you do end up with quite a few little pieces that you can make work for things. So it's not absolutely necessary to go any longer than 10 inches on the stencil. You can, or the starting piece. I don't actually have a stencil. I tried to make a stencil, and turned out that I was really bad at making 2-dimensional designs in scale that I could then distribute to. Hopefully, I will figure that out by the time I put out the video on these, the non-live actual video on these, but we shall see. So, again, start here. Peel. If the black starts to get away from me and starts to stick a little, you want to try to get that up or start from the other end. Again, when you peel this off, it's going to do 2 things. One, it's going to begin to create a bunch of static. And there's ways to get around that, but I tend to just let it be staticky. The other thing it does is the side you peel, it will try to curl inward on that direction, as you can see here. A little bit of a curl, but that doesn't matter because as soon as you peel the other side, it flattens right back out again. There we go. Get that off there without too much trouble. Yeah, I can already feel the static building up from that, but just as the static builds up, the board flattens out. So it's kind of a trade-off. Okay, end piece. I mean, not end piece, bottom piece. Take that, cut it off right there. This piece again is 2 inches by 4 inches. I eyeballed this curve on a piece of paper and then on a folded piece of paper, and then unfolded it, and that's how I got both sides to be close enough. So this is a 4-inch long base to the boat. The boat comes out about, I really measured, 4.5 inches up at the prow. So the bottom is 4 inches long by 2 inches wide. Follow that around. Save all your little offcuts because they'll get used for some pieces in a minute. Follow that around. Save the offcut. Okay, use a straight edge. You want to find the middle point of that board. And you don't have to. You could do these boards however you want. I just like to use the middle point as an eyeball to start with. And wow, these things are sticking me. I can feel that static really bad. All right, and then do it on top and bottom. Because these boats may or may not end up upside down, so you want to both sides look presentable. And then again, I just eyeball these other two, and I turn the bottom into 6 planks by putting 5 marks down it. On both sides, top and bottom. This part's a little repetitive. Probably not exciting to watch, but it goes pretty fast when you're doing it yourself. Board, 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 board. Plank, 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 plank. Good to go. And you just do this over and over on every one. You could say it's a Planck's constant. That's a really bad science joke for those of you paying attention. Again, I tend to texture the back edge because just make it look like ingrain. And then surfaces these, you don't have to do the rounded edges because those will be completely hidden. Now, on here, I'm going to take this piece, cut across it, and cut along the top surface. And then you want to take that piece, flip it around, and copy it onto the other one. And that gives you your two gunnels, your two sides of your boat. The little odd-shaped piece in the middle, you want to keep that. That's going to make two different things for you. So we'll keep that. I'll get to that in a second. All right, now let's texture these. Again, I want to follow that curve with the texture, both with the brush. Oh, I didn't do a thing. Hold on. That's supposed to be cut off at an angle to create the prow, and I forgot it. Okay. That little triangle there. Okay. Now, excuse me. Contour. You want to follow the contour of this curve with both the steel brush for the wood grain and I'm having hand cramps. Excuse me, y'all. Oh, thank you, Trav. I certainly appreciate it. Yeah, they turned out pretty good. Took me quite a while to get the stencil down and realize I could do it all out of a 2 and 10 and 2 inches by 10 inches. But once I got it figured out, I'm really happy with this design. I'm glad you're liking them. Okay, so wood grain, follow that curve. Wood grain, follow the curve. Want to get that top edge as well, because that's going to be visible right here at the top of the boat. We'll do that on both pieces. The bottom, when you flip it over, it'll be visible as well. So you can do the bottom as well. You don't have to, because that's going to be visible a lot less. And it's such a narrow little piece, it's not necessary to do it. But when I remember to do it, I do it. Sometimes I forget. Okay, now we're going to take that weird little piece out of the middle. We want to find a piece to where it's most rectangular in the middle, and we want to cut out that 2-inch section. That's going to be the back of our boat. So that piece goes here, and then one of these right here. Oops, well, not that one because I dropped it. Can be the prow. And you can take that and I keep messing these up a little bit. That is okay. I'm gonna taper this down a little. There we go. It's all trial and error, except for the parts that you measure, because then those are definitely trial and error. Okay. A little more wood grain on that. Okay, now you want to take that piece, a little bit of blue on the front, and we want to take that and press it along there to match that. Any squeeze out on this top part isn't going to matter because that's going to be the inside of the boat and it's going to be hidden by this little triangle here. Any squeeze out on the outside you probably want to go ahead and get rid of once you get it up. Now I've managed to glue mine down, so I know it's got some squeeze out on the other side. But right now I'm going to use that stability to do the next piece. So on the next piece, we want to glue. Ah, I did it again. Okay, forget I said that. Okay, there's not as much splash out as I thought. Okay, I keep forgetting to do this. You want to follow this curve around with the pencil, and I just put the pencil down and then use my finger as a guide and let it follow that edge of that board all the way to the front. You don't want to go into the prow piece, but it's not going to matter because we're about to be going. That's not good grammar. We're about to glue onto that, so it'll be hidden. So that makes this look like a board here, and then this is a little wide, so I tend to follow that same curvature here, just down to the water line, and that gives me the impression that it's multiple planks. I should have done this before I put that little prow piece on, but at least I did it before I glued it to the floor of the boat like I did on the last one. Talking and distracting myself. Okay, so there's that board, and then I want to follow that same curve here. Okay, now with that like that, we'll do the same thing on this one. This should be easier because it's not glued to anything else, and I can just do it. Follow the curve for the bottom board. Do the top board. Follow that curve for the bottom board. Okay. Now, you want to make sure they're both right set up. You don't want to end up with them upside down. So, you want to take that piece, put a little glue on it, and glue it on that same little offcut piece that we're using as the prow, but not to here. You want to put them butted up against each other like that. Any squeeze out on the inside doesn't matter. It's going to get covered by that triangular board. Any squeeze out on the outside, we're about to cut off. So, once that's in place, follow it, cut off the excess. You now discard that piece. We're not using that again. And then this piece, you want to cut off flat with the water line so you don't end up with a little point sticking up that's brittle. So that's the prow of our boat. All right. Now, let's texture this piece on all four long sides. That's the two big broad sides. Yep, boats are so useful. People don't think about it, but they're good for river scenes, they're good for lake scenes, they're good for ocean scenes. If you're trying to make it look like you have a dockside town, yeah. I was making these and I was thinking to myself, I wonder if as many as I'm making here is too many. And I'm like, nah, there's always room for boats. Okay, so I have textured all four long sides on this. I don't really have to, but this way I don't have to worry about which one I'm gluing down. Now, this one, this is going to be the two seats. I want to come in about a quarter of the way and draw a line on each side. I don't have to put a line in the middle because I'm about to cut this in half. I want to put that line on both sides, on both the front, both of the broad sides and from both of the edges. So that looks like that. And I'm going to cut right on the middle. Take that, get yourself a straight edge, and just like that. I've got two seats. Now I want to take that middle part where I cut, flip that out, and wood grain that as well. Okay, so we've got a back, two seats, a piece I can use as a triangle for the front. I'm going to trim that down in a minute, and two of these small little triangles. I'm going to use these. I'm going to take just a little small chunk of that from each one. Doesn't matter if it's from each one. You can take them both from one. It just happened to be a little narrow on that one. On your seat, you just want to pick which side you're going to have top and bottom. On your seat, you want to put a little drop of glue right in the middle on the whichever side you've chosen as the bottom. Then you want to take one of those little supports. Trying to pick it up with like I do it with a knife. Take that little support and put it into that glue. Do the same thing with the other one. Little drop of glue. And the support, put it into a little drop of glue. Let those harden for a minute. While we're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and begin gluing the sides onto the boat. I want to take one side, doesn't matter if it's starboard or port, and I want to run glue all along it. Take that, wedge that corner all the way up into that corner of the boat. Make sure it's in there nice and firm. Get that mushed way up in there. And then curl that edge around and hold it in place till that glue grabs. If you're using white glue, you're going to want to pin this side because that curve is going to want to try to get back out, to bow back out on you. So that's one side down. And I am going to do something a little different on this one. Just I've never tried it, and I thought to try it. I'm going to put the seats in right now. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put glue on one end and the bottom on that little support. And I'm going to press it in where I want that seat to be. I'm going to make that just a little bit behind that curve. Squeeze out's not going to matter. That's going to be totally hidden. Squeeze out on the end you're going to want to be careful of. But underneath, nobody's going to see that. Okay, we'll do the same thing with the other one. A little bit of glue on the bottom. A little bit of glue on one end. That's way too much, but that's all right. I'll fix it in a minute. You want to come in, oops, sorry, wrong way around. You want to put that against, side's already glued in. Make sure it's pretty much level with the bottom of the boat. Yep, you can see that. All right, now, while that's hardening up, I'm going to do the same thing with the back of the boat. Man, I should have done it this way every time. Okay, all the way down the edge of this board, just a tiny bit, don't want too much, and one end. Okay, you want to take that board, whoop, and glue it to your desk. No, you don't want to do that. You want to take that and put that right at the back of the boat, and that is going to be our aft support board there. There's a word for that board, but I don't remember what it is. And glue that into place. I should have done this way 100 times. Oh well. Live and learn. Live and learn. All right. Now, while that's gluing itself into place, you can start on this other piece up here, and on the other side, you want to run that glue along that. I'm not going to try that again over here. You want to run that glue along this edge, all the way from the front to the rear, all the way from the bow to the aft. And not too much, because squeeze out's going to be visible on this. And just a little bit of glue all the way down. Follow that around and push that into place and hold it just long enough for that glue to grab. I should have put glue on the seats and the other thing as well, but I didn't, so, well, I've never done it that way before, so learning curve. Okay. Should have done this beforehand, but oh well. So now I'm going to bend that seat up carefully. Don't want to break it. Put a little glue on the end of it. And push that into place. Wipe off any squeeze out you think is going to be visible. I think I'm pretty much boated out for now. I'm going to show off some of my pieces that I worked on last week. For anybody tuned in, I was working on those street pieces. I'll show you some of those in a minute, how far I've gotten along on those. I have not finished them, but I have worked on them. I may do that on live stream next Sunday. I am planning on doing this every Sunday from now on. But this boat video, I should be working on this week, and it should be out by next week. And then next live stream, I'll probably work on my streets again. Okay, so we're going to press this seat into place just like we did the front one. And as you see, I'm going to have to trim that, well, maybe you can't see. I'm going to have to trim that corner off again like I did on that one. But I actually kind of like the way it turned out, so not at all upset over that. I still need one drop of glue in here. This piece isn't secured yet. So let's go ahead and do that. Use that glue into there. Press that in place. While I'm holding that down, I can go ahead and cut off the other one. We want to cut that side off flush with the back. Discard that. And while I'm waiting for this one to harden up, I'm going to go ahead and cut this one like I did that 1-2 boats ago and cut it off at a slight curve. I like the way that looks. All right, so I can do that while this one's... Nope. Go ahead and cut that off flush. Still not quite glued in place, but it's getting there. And then curve that piece off as well. And that boat is done. Like a little bit of wood grain here, I suppose. There we go. We are good to go. We put some wood grain on the back of the gunwales where I just cut them. And that's 3 boats down in 1 hour and 20 minutes. I guess it is almost time for me to go. But let me show off the thing from last week real quick. And then I will let y'all head on out for the evening. If y'all want to go back and look at my city blocks, these are going to be the streets that go between them. These sit just a little bit lower than the blocks, so there's like a little bit of a curve when they go down. I created 3 different textures on the, so there's going to be, like I said, these are going to sit a little bit lower. There'll be a curb. I made 3 different textures on these. This is a flat tile-shaped thing. These are some bricks. The main difference is the overall size of them, and these were done as big flat square tiles. These are going to get sand or grout or something put in them to fill in all these little grooves and lines. But other than that, these are complete other than texturing with the sand and painting. I also made 3 tops. I did not make those in 3 designs. I only did 2 on those. I made the one in the first style of bricks. That's gonna, and these are mix and match. They don't have to go together, but these 2 are the same style. So these can be used as streets. They are 6 inches wide. I was building streets 3 inches wide. In the scale that I build, that's 12 feet. In Dungeons and Dragons scale, that would be 15 feet. But that should be, quote unquote, plenty of space for a wagon to fit on them. But in scale, it looked really weird. So I'm going to be building my wagons a little bit wider. So I needed a 6-inch road. It also allowed me to, if you look at my community page, I've got a picture of one of these where the inside is being prototyped to have a sewer in it. And I may make another 1 or 2 of those. I will definitely finish out the prototype till it's completed. But generally, I'm just going to use the insides of these as storage boxes. I can put street lights, vendors' carts, etc. Anything that'll fit in that 1 3/4, 2-inch space right there. I can fit in there. So I found a way to make sheets of what looks like foliage with little flowers on it, and just put the sheets down as for like gardens or in yards to look like flowers. So those are really small and thin. I can fit those in here. I can fit all the items that would go in a vendor stall. I can fit those in here. Even my signposts, which are like the where your adventurers may find jobs to go do. Those signboards I make fit in there. So anything I can fit in that box, I can use it for storage. And other than putting some sand texture into those and touching up with the paint, notice that this has a bunch of gaps in between the tiles. And I even went so far as to specifically using some smaller tiles to make it look like there was damage or there was repairs. So all of these gaps, like these little triangles in here, these will all get filled with sand or grout or something. So those are the ones I was working on last week. That's just a follow-up. All right, those boats are ready to go. So 3 boats in an hour and a half while talking about it. They go much faster. They only take about 10 or 15 minutes a boat when you're not talking about it. I could have gotten twice as many done. So super simple project. Again, 10-inch by 2-inch piece of foam core to build them. And you can get that at any dollar store or art store. Big box stores have them. So that's just 2 inches by 10 inches, and it makes a boat. And once painted up, they come out like that. All right. That's all I got for you tonight. So thank you, campaigners, for showing up, and I appreciate it. And I'm going to take off for the evening. I hope everyone's having a great evening, and I will see y'all again next week. Hopefully, no, not hopefully. The plan is during this week, there will also be a non-live video where I specifically go through these boats with less rambling. And I hope that y'all look forward to seeing that. So have a great night. I love you. Thanks for coming to Campaign Terrain. As ever, I am your host, That Guy Cross, and I'm planning to be here every Sunday as often as I can, unless there's some weird holiday that falls directly on a Sunday or something. So y'all have a great one. Oh, thank you, Dungeon & Chronics. Yeah, the box being storage was an absolute accident. I was just building platforms, and I had flipped one over and stuck some stuff in it and to use it as a tray, and my little gears in my head went, let's do that. And so that's when I started building lids on them. Instead of texturing the bottom of the tray, which was then the top of the tray, I just flipped them over and built a top for them. And they're all my city blocks are 12-inch by 12-inch by 3, and these are all 12-inch by 6-inch by 2 3/4. So, everybody have a great night. I'm out.